Hi, I'm KS Garner, and you're listening to the Solo Nerdbird podcast. Today, I'll be speaking with the comics writer of the GunEngine Zero series and publisher under the Rainy Road Media imprint, Michael Gonzalez, here to promote the comics first issue on Kickstarter. Welcome, Michael.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Well, thank you for joining us today. But outside my introduction, who is Michael Gonzalez in his own words?
Basically, just somebody who's always wanted to make comic books, even from a very young age. I tried doing it for a while. It didn't work out. I got out of it. Just did regular, jobs. Worked as a mechanic for the last about 20 years on motorcycles, power sports, that kind of stuff. And then I was living in China at the time, and I got the idea of trying to get back into comics, just making like one kind of last ditch effort kind of thing. And so that's basically what I've been doing since about 2013, is putting serious effort into actually making comics and getting them out there, and just trying to make it happen one more time.
So, what is GunEngine Zero about?
Basically what it is, it's sort of an homage to like the classic sci-fi, superhero sci-fi from like the 70s and 80s that really touched me when I was a kid. Things like Mazinger, Gundam, Battle of the Planets, G-Force, Gotcha Man, whatever you want to call it, Robotech, Ultraman, all these kinds of things that I thought they were really exciting to me as a kid. And I always wanted to tell a story that kind of had the same kind of visual aesthetic to it. And so basically what it is, it pulls a lot of these classic sci-fi tropes, and it's about a guy, a warrior, cosmic warrior, who comes to Earth, and he's in this battle with this alien race, and now their war has come to Earth, into this small town, and what the story we see is just the chaos that erupts in this small town, and all of the hidden kind of things that are lying underneath the surface in this small town, and all that with the kids that could become involved with it, and the chaos and everything, their little adventure. And the other thing that I wanted to kind of recreate is sort of the tone of the movies from the 80s, things like Goonies, The Last Starfighter, what was the other one, like Flight of the Navigator, these kind of things. So the story takes place in 1985, so it's kind of a more simpler time, and that's basically the gist of it, I guess.
Yeah. So could you just, I guess, elaborate a little bit more on GunEngine Zero's, the process of it as a whole? So just from a thought in your head to now working it out, at least the first issue, or maybe even outlining the entire series that you want it to be, to now, finding collaborators and now promoting it on Kickstarter.
Yeah. So basically what it started off was, like I was saying, I was in China trying to get back into comics, or seeing if I could get into comics, not back into comics, but into comics. And one of the things I read was Mark Millar. I don't know, he's the guy who wrote Kick Ass and a couple of other like independent stuff. He had a website, and one of the things that he had talked about is when he tried to get into Marvel, what he did is he took like these C-list characters that Marvel wasn't using at the time, and he tried to come up with pitches for those characters, because he thought that, okay, if I come up with something interesting with this character they're not even using right now, then maybe it's more likely that they'll publish it, or at least they'll read it and then say, oh, this is really good, let's hire you for something else. So I thought that was maybe this is a good idea, something I could try. And so that's what I did, is I thought back to what kind of characters that I like growing up that Marvel's not using right now. And one of the characters that I thought of was Rom. He's called Rom Space Knight. I don't know if you are familiar with him or you've ever heard of him, but he was all like all silver kind of like a robot or like cyborg kind of thing. And when I was a kid, I thought he just looked really cool. So I thought, well, if I can come up with some kind of idea for him and just write it out. And this is before I found out that IDW had already rebooted the character, so it kind of didn't matter. But so I came up with some ideas for if I made my own reboot of this character, what would I do with it? And so I come up with a bunch of ideas. I wrote it all out, but then I found out that IDW had redone this character, and also I got to the sort of this realization was like, I'm not going to stop bothering trying to get work for Marvel or DC or anybody. I'm just going to do stuff myself. It's kind of like a waste of my time to even try to do that. So, but I figured, I come up with all this ideas for this character. Is there some way that I can use it and kind of steer it towards make it my own character, just change some things and, work some things around so that it's its own unique character. And so that's what I did. And I wrote a whole bunch of stuff, and this process took a long time. This is like 5-6 years going through everything, and so many different iterations and story ideas and changing the story around and all this kind of stuff. So I finally come up with what I thought was a solid idea for a story, like a mini series. And then I approached different artists that I found online about designing the character. And well, the first guy was someone I had already worked with on one of my previous books. And he tried to do some stuff, but he couldn't really get into it for whatever reason. Then I started looking for other people, and with each person, I kind of developed the character more, developed the look of the character more, and until I finally found one artist. His name is Waryanto, and he's gonna be doing this series. And he suggested a colorist to me, Anton Bandi, and they're both the art team that works currently on the Mighty Mascots, which is published by Alterna Comics. And so once I got him and he's all, ready to go with the book, I mean, both of them ready to go with the book, and I've got pretty much the entire series already written out. Then I just figured let's put it up on Kickstarter, and hopefully people will support it. So then it's not just this one book, but this book will basically be the foundation for the books that come after this. So for the rest of the books in this series and the other books that I want to continue to do.
So how difficult do you think it was for the world building for Gun Engine Zero, or if it even was difficult for you to create your own world and integrate those same influences that you mentioned before, but maintain that this is mine. This is not, I pulled influences from this character that's already been made, or from these pop culture references from when I was growing up, but this is mine. So how was it difficult for you, even if it wasn't difficult?
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't terribly difficult because with this specific project and this character, what I did is, so that was one aspect of this story is, taking these influences from the sci-fi superheroes, like especially the Japanese stuff. That was one element of the story. The other element of the story was that it takes place in this small town that's a beach town. And when I was a kid, we used to go to Tybee Island, and it's close to Savannah, Georgia, during summers. And there was a lot of like crazy, stupid, silly things that happened there while I was growing up. It was mostly like in my preteen and teen years. And so there's things from my experiences that I wanted to tell in a story. So I had that little bit. And the and so there was a bunch of like other little things that I thought, once I kind of got this idea, then I said, oh, well, if I take these, it's like, kind of like a jigsaw puzzle, you got all these different puzzle pieces, and you just got to figure out how to fit them all together. And so, and I already had the pieces, basically. I just needed to put them together. So putting them together wasn't that difficult. but I did go through, this story has gone through tons of different iterations. Like originally it was something completely different, the storyline was completely different, but the general idea of the story has always been the same. And it's just as I'm writing it and developing it, I'm starting to realize kind of like what the story is really about. And then you start to like tweak it and fine tune it down to, to get to that point is like, okay, this is, something that is unique and is its own thing.
Yeah, I always find it interesting when writers explain their process to me or how they came up with an idea or like the final product, because my stuff is kind of like that too, where I'll write something, I'll write down an idea and I'll expand on it, but then I kind of like hit a block and I'm like, what am I supposed to do with it now? So then I move on to something else and I kind of prefer this. So I'll take some stuff from the previous thing I wrote and put it in there and then expand on it more and more and more. And then that ends up becoming a complete work. And I mean, I keep the other stuff, but I kind of just put it to the side. Or I guess I'll come back to it at some point. And
Yeah.
then, like you said, tweak it here, make the adjustments here, make the adjustments there. So it's kind of how you and I are the same, or I guess in for this project, your process was similar to mine when I write my stuff as well. So are you like the way you explain it is like a jigsaw. So I was going to ask you, like a linear writer, or you kind of just write stuff as it comes and then figure out what to do with it later?
Well, usually what I do is like once I start having ideas for a specific project, I'll just take notes on it. It can be all kinds of different things. It can just be like a specific piece of dialogue. It can be a specific scene, a feeling, a mood, or whatever it can be. Just these tiny little pieces, and you start writing them down in like a notebook or on the computer, whatever, and just start compiling all of these things. And then once it gets to the point where I think that I have at least kind of like a backbone for a decent story, then I'll sit down and actually start writing it. And the first thing I do is I like to use kind of like a spreadsheet format where, especially for comic books, because comic books are like a very unique sort of medium where, as far as I'm concerned, they have like very distinct beats or like rhythms, because you obviously have like each panel is kind of like a beat, and then each page is also like a beat. And so what I do is like I'll take like so I'll make like a spreadsheet, and I'll say, put right here, it says page 1, and then page 2, on the first column, like all the different pages all the way down from page 1 to page 28, 24, however long I think it's going to be. And then in each of those, I'll have panel 1, 2, 3, 4, and I'll just start with like, whatever, 4 panels per page. And then from there I can go like, so I need to know where a page starts and how it ends. So I like to have scenes take up at least 1 full page. Like I don't want to have 2 scenes in 1 page. Splitting up a scene in 2 pages, to me that kind of breaks up things, unless there's a way to make them sort of transition easy or like flow into each other in an organic way. But normally I want to have, like 1 scene is 1 page, at least 1 page. And then so when I do the outline, or what I call it is like a blueprint with this not I'm blanking on the word again, the way that I do it, with the spreadsheet, sorry. uh so that way it's kind of it's almost kind of like robotic. It's sort of like very easy. It makes it easy for me to just go, okay, this happens, this happens, this happens, next page, this happens, this happens, this happens. So I know where I'm starting and I know where I need to get to, and then all I got to do is fill it in from the point A to point B, and I fill in that thing. So I do it like that. That's the way I start off with. And then once I got like a nice when the spreadsheet is, it looks like it's all clean and everything's good, then I'll jump over and actually start typing it out and the actual script for the comic.
Okay, so what advice do you think you could offer to other creators, comics writers, what have you wish someone would have told you when you first started?
Oh, there's a lot of stuff. We could be here all day. Um, I can say one of the mistakes that I made when I first started was being too detailed. Because when you're working with the artist, they need to have like a certain amount of their creative input into it. And so just an example, the first book I made was called 6-8, is the horror comic book, supernatural horror comic. And when I did that one, that was from, originally it was a feature length screenplay I was going to write. Then I wrote it as a short screenplay. Then I translated it into a comic book. So when I write it as a comic book, since it started off as a film, and I have like some experience in the film and video world where I did videography, and I would do like the sketches and the drawings, for to lay out the action that would, we would film it, the storyboards. And so when I wrote that, I had very specific, clear ideas about what every single panel should look like. And so I wrote it that way. And this became sort of like a contentious thing between me and the artist, where he was like, well, you need to let me be more like, have some more input to things. And now I realized that he was right about that. So basically now what I do is I kind of just describe what happens in the panel, in each specific panel. I don't necessarily describe how the artist should draw it. So that way, that kind of gives them the freedom to say, like they can choose the angle, that whatever, the size of the panel and all that kind of stuff. So now I'm leaving the art more up to the artist. So that was basically, I think that's like the main thing. There's other things about, like learning the pacing of a comic book, all that kind of stuff. I was talking about the page turns and the beats and stuff like that.
Mhm.
And learning that there's only so much physical real estate in a comic book. So like with the first book I was doing way too much dialogue. There's no way it was going to fit in a panel. I wasn't thinking about that when I was writing it. So now I'm, more in tune with that kind of stuff, thinking about like that. I would say those are kind of like the main things. I mean, there's all kinds of other things about, like working with artists, all this kind of stuff. And you got to think about like paying people and all this other business sort of aspect to it. But as far as the creative stuff, that's probably like the main thing.
Mm-hmm. So throughout this whole process, like, did you ever or do you ever get overwhelmed? Because it's not just with the comic itself, the comic series itself, and all the other projects you're doing. You also have your family life and your friends and, job stuff and just, and then trying to take care of you as well. So, like, does it ever become too much? Like, or did it ever become too much? How do you typically manage your mental well-being?
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, it can be. It definitely, like you were talking about before, like when you come to sort of like a writer's block sort of thing, where you don't know what to do with a story. That at times it can be kind of, like real frustrating, real stressful. And right now, I've been unemployed for like a year and a half. So I'm the stay-at-home dad, and my wife is working and basically providing for the family. But I do everything else, like paying the bills and everything else. So it there is very little time for me to dedicate to this, but I basically had to cut out everything else. It's like, I used to whatever go out, I used to have a motorcycle, used to go riding all the time. Uh, all the other things that you could do in your life is like, now I cut out everything. So this is like the only thing that I do that's not, you know, family related or like household related or whatever you want to call it. Uh, so I'm dedicating myself fully to doing this, to making this happen, and whatever money I spend is just on this. I don't have other. I don't smoke, drink, or do anything else. Um, you know, so this is all that I do, and so what little time that I have, I spend it doing this. It's like either actual writing scripts for comics, just developing the ideas for the comics, or working on the Kickstarter campaigns and stuff like that, which is a whole nother stressful thing. Because you got to be like a salesman and stuff. I'm not like a natural kind of a salesman. So yeah, I mean, I just as far as the attitude, like, it's just like, if you want it, you just got to do it. And so it may be like stressful, and there may be times when it's kind of tough and everything, but you just got to, power through it. And if like you were saying, what I do is like, when I come to, like, if there's a point where I kind of have a block and I don't know what to do with the story, or it's just whatever reason it's become frustrating and it's not fun working on that specific project at the moment, I just put it aside, and then I'll go to another project, and leave that for weeks or even months, and then come back to it when I feel like I've kind of re-inspired, or like, maybe, oh, I got some more ideas now let's get back to it. And so that's why one of the reasons why I like to have multiple sort of projects going on is that'll give me the freedom to be able to jump to different things when I feel that I'm kind of like in the mood for it, or in the groove, for a specific project. So I think that's a big help, so I don't really experience the sort of frustration and stress and writer's block that much, because I can just jump to another thing and say, okay, I'm gonna start working on this thing, and then when this thing starts kicking my butt, well, I'll jump to another thing, and so.
All right. Well, my last question for you, Michael, is what is your idea of success? So I ask that because as creators, if we're like not getting regular paychecks or making consistent revenue from our art, we're considered failures. We'll consider ourselves failures, what have you. Many of us will put our dreams on the back burner or give them up altogether because this career path can be highly intimidating and competitive. So, what is
Yeah.
your idea of quote unquote success?
Well, success for me right now would just be if this was a self-sustaining endeavor.
Mhm.
If I could actually make enough money from it to keep doing it. That, if I spent the money, take the money out of my own pocket and make a book, whatever it is, a couple $1,000, 4,000, 5,000, 10,000, whatever. If I can at least make that money back by selling the book, then to me that would be successful. That means at least I'm not losing money, you know, losing, because to me that would just be so, like, I'm just sitting here wasting my time. If I'm making something, because to me this is not like a solo endeavor. This is a shared experience. I'm writing something, I'm creating a story, I'm telling a story. But if it just sits on the shelf back there, what's the point? I mean, it's meaningless. It has to get to somebody, and somebody else has to read it and have that experience. And then again, we have this shared experience. I write it, somebody else reads it, and then there you go. So again, just like making something isn't really what I would consider a success, even though it is a great feeling. You take something that's just from your imagination, and then you have a actual physical thing eventually, that does feel great to have that. But there's still the next step is, it's got to get to somebody else and they have to read it, whether they like it or not. I don't care. But the point is, they gotta, that's really what the point is. And I will say that, I gave up doing this a long time ago. I started when I was like 11 years old, and I had just a typewriter, and I would just bang away stuff on a typewriter. I have reams and reams of stacks and stacks of paper. I would just write like the worst crap you've ever read, but but I really like doing it. And but I tried for a long time. I tried to get into comics. I tried Marvel, then later I tried Dark Horse with a bunch of stuff. I tried like some other like little independent stuff, and nothing ever happened. And then I went into try to get into film and video. I did that, wrote a bunch of screenplays and tried to get into that world. A little bit of success, but not very much really. And so then I just gave up. I was like, okay, this is obviously, it's not going to work for me. This is not my life. This is not my fate. So just stop struggling, stop fighting it, just go and do something else. So that's when I got into like the motorcycle mechanics and stuff like that, and eventually went to China and everything. But I could never totally get rid of it.
Mhm.
It's like this little voice always inside your head. It's like, you need to try this. You need to keep doing this. And there's other reasons, real world reasons too. Like I wanted to hopefully see if I could make something that could last, that could maybe provide for my children. Because, working like 9 to 5, killing my body and everything just to, have a paycheck and only be able to take home like whatever 60% of it or something, it's like I don't really have anything to show for it. I'm doing all this work and doing all this. What do I really have to show for it? And what am I leaving my children? The way the world is now, it's hard to kind of, for like us, maybe with our parents' generation, I know like my parents and all them, they have like pensions and stuff like that where they can retire. But like I think maybe for my generation, your generation, and people younger than us, there's nothing. And so you're going to work your whole life, and then you're going to have nothing. You won't even be able to retire or anything. Nothing you can leave your kids. Or like I don't have a house, or like renting this mobile home and stuff. So there was a real world sort of concern for me. It's like I need to do something. There there was like this I was sort of like in a crisis kind of thing where it's like I need to do something right now. And this was something I thought that I could do, that I thought that I could do well, and that maybe could turn out to be good, that could turn out to be something that could provide for my family over time, even after I'm gone. So that's one of the reasons why I got back into it. And of course there's still the creative impulses that are always there. And then even when I was just working, doing whatever, little ideas for things would pop into my head about, story ideas and character ideas and stuff. And I'm like, just get out of there. I don't need that. But I would still do it. And then, and then the time came when I was living in China, I had spare time. So I just kind of, let's do this, go back into it. So for people that, maybe a word of advice is just that don't give up. And I know that's like an obvious piece of advice that everybody gives, don't give up. But I would say that it could take a long time. But if it's something that you really want to do, don't worry about how long it takes. Just do it. I mean, you might not. I mean, there's people now that are famous for their writing and their art, whatever, who got nothing, no recognition in their lifetime. it only came until after they were gone. And so I'd say, just don't worry about that. Just be reasonable. I mean, don't mortgage your life away to make like one book or something. But if it's something you really want to do, then just do it. And it may take a long time, but you just keep at it, and maybe it'll work out for you, or maybe you need to find a different route to do things. Like I was saying, like I started comic books, that didn't work. So I tried film, that didn't really work. But there's other things, like if the comic book thing doesn't work, I could maybe write, pivot towards like prose novels, just write the stuff that I have in prose novels, because I won't have to pay an artist ahead of time to do stuff. It's just me writing. So there's always like options to do things. So you may have to, like take a step back and kind of reevaluate your situation, and maybe try different, routes to go. But again, like if it's something you really want to do, then you just got to do it. Like Nike says, just do it.
Well, is there anything else that you want to touch on about GunEngine Zero as a whole that I may have missed? Maybe discuss rewards for potential backers?
Well, basically, what I do is I kind of like keep things simple, because I'm kind of a simpleton. So to make things easy for me and for the backers, I just have like 4 tiers. So there's a PDF of the book. Everyone can get a PDF of the book. There's the rewards that's just the book itself. And then there's a reward for comic book stores. If stores want to order several copies, it'll come with a promotional poster. And since it's a series, I was hoping that maybe some stores would support it, because it's going to take maybe like 2 or 3 years, I guess, to do the whole series if it's successful. So I'm trying to do things to help like a comic book shop to promote it over the long run. So that's why I have like that special promo poster that they could do, and the book's available at like a 40% discount. And then the last one I have is what I call a super fan. So it's basically everything that I have to offer in one collection or one set. So you just one click, you get everything. Because there's a bunch of add-ons that you can get. Like if you buy the book and then you want to add on like stickers or trading cards or mini prints that I have, all those different things are available. So you could like a la carte everything, like I want a book and I just want this and that, whatever, you can do that. But if you want to just, I just want everything, I don't want to go through all, I'll just give me everything. Because there are some people like that. I've seen my experience last year with some other campaigns. They're just like, yeah, just give me whatever. I mean, just give me everything. So I made like that super fan set. So it has everything. And then I did put some like stretch goals in there that'll be for some additional mini prints to upgrade the cover paper of the book and different things like that. So, and the main thing I just want to say is that, so this GunEngine Zero series, this first issue is like the biggest step for me as a publisher, independent publisher. The other books I did before, I paid for myself, but I don't have the money anymore to do that. And so I really need people's support to help make at least this first book. If it's very successful, I could, take that extra money and make the subsequent books ahead of time, first from my own money. But this first book, it's obviously setting up the rest of the series, but not only that, it sets up all the other books that I want to do. So if this fails, then I probably won't be able to do anything else. It probably stops right here. So it's real important, it's real vital for this campaign to be successful. And so I hope just people will take a look at the campaign and check it out and consider backing it.
All right. Well, again, I want to thank the comics writer of the Gun Engine Zero series and publisher under the Rainy Road Media imprint, Michael Gonzalez, for joining us here today to promote the comic's first issue on Kickstarter. I highly recommend our listeners to consider giving the Kickstarter a look, share, and/or back if they can. All of Michael's socials and Kickstarter will be listed in this episode's details for all of those who are interested. Again, I am KS Garner, and you've been listening to the Solo Nerd Bird Podcast. Thank you.
Thanks.